I'm not even gonna count down. It's fucking going. But here before you get into it, let me just
It's fucking gone.
let's fucking go, dog. What are you drinking?
Mead.
Mead?
Viking's blood specifically.
I wish I had mead, but I'm just rocking a Corona. I'm running out of all the booze that I got from my pool parties. So I just got
This
a few Coronas
next
left.
next month, I have pledged. I'm gonna start making mead.
Really?
I've got the money set aside. I'm gonna buy the equipment that I have lined up, and after I buy the equipment, basically it's trying to find a deal on bulk honey.
Well, alright.
Probably the worst time to try and do it, but I will be trying to brew my own shit this summer and hopefully enjoy it this fall and winter.
Why do you think it's the worst time?
So,
Just because of the state of the economy
supply.
right now?
Everyone's supply chains are obliterated,
What, because of the gas stuff?
and food is up. I think food is up 25% right now. Gas is 80%. It's yeah, everything. Dude, have you seen construction right now? What materials look like for all those businesses?
Well, I work for a siding company,
You
so
know those
yeah.
sheets of plywood that I built my workbench out of?
Yeah?
Those were like $30 a board when I bought those 2 years ago. Those
Right.
are $100 boards now.
And this is really only because of the gas problem, though, right? Because it's so expensive to get everything from point A to point B. It's not because we're like
No,
low
it's
on
it's
resources or
completely
anything.
unrelated to the gas.
Why are construction materials so
It's
expensive right now?
completely unrelated to the gas supply. People can't get the material. Well, first of all, everyone wants to do something during pandemic. You know, everyone's been thinking about all these home upgrades that they want to do, and now's the time to do it. So demand is through the roof for everything. Combine that with the fact that shipping is always delayed now.
Why is shipping always delayed?
Timeliness isn't a thing. People are just over ordering. There's too much demand for everything.
Hmm.
And the panicking. People are worried that they might never get a chance.
Right. So like, we're dealing.
Basically, panic buying has destroyed everything.
Yeah. So we haven't had like a doomsday shortage of stuff. We've had a doomsday demand for stuff, but the supply is normal. The demand is
Which
abnormal.
leads to a shortage because everyone buys off. Well, it leads to a shortage because everyone buys everything off the shelf and sits on it like a fucking filthy hoarder. And
You don't like
of course,
hoarders?
retailers only get stuff in batches.
Time out.
I think that, well, to an extent, no, I don't.
Jacob, I expect you to be the epitome of somebody who goes and panics buys when shit's hitting the fan. You of all people, I would expect you to go stock up on resources. That just sounds like you. Since we were
And I
in
haven't.
since I was in 3rd grade, you've told me you've had plans for like a theoretical zombie apocalypse or some shit. Like for real.
Well, yeah. High ground, blow out the stairs, rooftop garden,
Yes, and even
you
fill
know,
up your bathtub with water
skyscraper kingdom,
beforehand so you could
agricultural
have.
type fucking harem.
Yes, you've
Mm-hmm.
always you've always told me about this shit, and now you're talking shit about people who buy extra toilet paper. Are you fucking kidding me right now?
No, I'm talking shit about people who buy so much shit that they'll never use before it expires,
Now
and then
that
sit on it,
that I can agree
and then
with.
artificially drive prices up
Yeah, I can agree with.
in a time when
Yeah,
when honestly there is nothing to be afraid of. Now, zombie apocalypse is like a whole different thing because yeah, your neighbor is literally getting his brains eaten on your front lawn. I mean, like that's a little bit different of a scenario. I mean, Red Dawn too, right?
yeah.
But I mean, we're talking about a pandemic that kills less than 1% of the population in the U.S. and
Well,
people are
why
like
is
losing their minds.
what's causing the panicking again with the pandemic? Because the panicking stopped for a while. Remember, I used to work at Walmart. I watched the shelves go to zero and then go back up to normal again. Who's panic buying now and why?
The
Is it just because of the
CDC
gas stuff?
keeps stoking. There, I mean, there is that. Basically, that the couple of gas companies got hacked, which is part of what's led to the shortage.
Right.
Um, so you got gas basically being bought by the barrel by people who are afraid they won't be able to get gas below. It's $10 a gallon in North Carolina, by the way, if you didn't know.
Holy shit! No, I didn't know
It's
that.
up that high.
$10 a gallon?
Yeah, it's $3 a gallon here in South Bend.
Well, I know that, and I really wish you didn't say that, but it's
It's
okay.
broken the dreaded $3 ceiling here.
Yeah, I didn't know that it was
Dude, there's
costing more
probably
than
a
three
dozen
dollars right now.
dozen city names like that.
No, and it's
It's like
here.
305.
So because we don't even actually live there, we can say that probably, and we're fine. But people do know of South Bend because of Notre Dame.
I was about to say you'll probably bleep me out anyway.
I probably won't, but it doesn't matter because we don't even actually live in South Bend anyway. That's still like a few 100,000 people that some
That is
crazy people would have to.
technically true.
Yeah, so like,
Sift through. Yeah.
yeah, it's
And
not gonna
then
happen.
like you said, technically we don't. So
Yeah, and then they still don't know what we look like. They still don't have our full names. They still don't. I'm keeping everybody on a first name basis.
but take ammo for example. I mean,
Yeah,
you've got all these first time gun buyers who have never shot their gun and they have like a 10,000 round stockpile for their two new guns.
yeah.
Like what? You're not even going to practice with it?
Hey, but
Like you're not even going to leave
hey,
brass
the
on the
ammo
ground for me to pick up?
advocacy, the ammo advocacy is good. All right, that's a good thing. More liberals are pro-gun than ever
It
because of
would
the
be good
panicking.
if people could keep up. It would be good if people could keep up and it didn't impinge or infringe on my ability to enjoy my weapons, which is what it. Well, frankly, that's what it's doing.
Hmm.
I remember back in my day when 308 was 38 cents a round.
Yeah, but dude, other than a sniper rifle, I think your arsenal's
Now it's
pretty.
$1.20.
I think your arsenal's pretty set right now, isn't it?
I have a sniper. I have two sniper rifles. The only
Then
thing I don't have is a
is
concealed carry pistol,
right. So like,
9 millimeter,
what I'm
which
saying is, I don't know. I,
is
I get why you'd
60
be.
cents around where I can find it right
I
now.
get why you'd be irritated with how expensive ammo is, but I don't see why you are irritated with all these people going and like
Well,
getting into
it
guns
tilts
and
me
stuff.
because my favorite it tilts me because all of my favorite calibers are typically the most expensive, and they're also the ones that went straight through the roof.
Mm.
Because I mean, I can't even find 6.5 Grendel anymore. That's how fucking gone it is now.
I told you that shit was gonna be super expensive and weird.
It's not even online.
It's so weird. I've yet to meet another
It
person who
wasn't that
shoots that
expensive to
round
begin with. It was so cheap.
because they tried to like
It was
artificially make
so
it cheap,
cheap. It was 25 cents a round.
and now it's not. And it's also
No,
it's also like a niche ammo.
it wasn't artificially made cheap. You know why it's cheap? It's because it uses the AK-76239 case. That's why it's cheap.
We're getting real gun nutty
It's the
this
same
episode.
case.
We can stick with
I'm
being
just
super
saying.
gun nutty because I know this is like your bread and butter, but we've got to start like explaining terminology and shit like that better, so we don't alienate aspects of the audience.
Well, quick rundown. The bullet is the freedom seed. That's what kills the people. The case is the thing that holds the bullet and the powder and the primer together. The primer is a little button on the back that the firing pin hits and sets off the first detonation. Bam, the anatomy of a cartridge. 101.
You were yeah, you're coming in swinging heavy this episode. I'm okay with that. So yeah, I am gonna divert the
I just
subject matter a
use
little
that
bit
as an
though.
example, though.
Yeah,
Yeah, like this wasn't ever supposed to focus on guns.
it can though. Don't get me wrong. It's just something I've been thinking about because like things are looking kind of rough right now. I wouldn't blame all of our issues on Biden specifically, right? But I definitely feel like
No,
he's the wrong kind of administration to have
definitely
during
not
an
all on
economic
Biden.
crisis. He's the wrong leadership to have during an economic
Well, I mean,
hardship for
my
sure.
dude literally looked at Trump's spending plan, which was already kind of egregious, and was like, "What if we just dump more money on this problem that we don't have?"
Well, isn't he?
Yay!
Didn't he officially cross the line of the
20%
most?
of all the dollars in circulation now.
Yeah, but not even just that.
20% of the
He's
dollars in circulation now were not in circulation in 2019.
hasn't he well like
1/5 of every dollar out there.
he's crossed the line of like the most money spent by by a president or an administration like ever, hasn't he? Like he's way beyond that line now, I believe.
If he hasn't, he's well on his way. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
I think he hit it.
Uh,
To be totally honest, I really do. At least that's what I heard from somewhere. I don't even remember. Something that irritates me is a lot of the media and stuff I listen to, like my podcasts and stuff. None of them are really like economically minded, like me and you are in our subjects matter and conversations. So like you got Joe Rogan, and he he doesn't think Biden's like a great president, right? But he doesn't look at the spending bills and like the debt and realize that like this kind of shit is absolutely bananas and insane right now.
well, I do get that sometimes to make an omelet, you have to break some eggs, right? We all have to spend the infrastructure plan that's been on the table for forever, that was $3 trillion, needs to happen, right? We need to have better roads. We need to have our modes of our roads and modes of transportation maintained and taken care of. That's something that we're a little bit behind on, and I
Yeah,
think we've
but
waited
I don't
as
know
long as
if
we should.
I don't know if
Um,
an administration
and I
like
think that is
this
something that you get
could
your
handle
return
it.
back on.
I don't know if an administration like this could handle it. I don't think this
Well,
administration really has grit or like any
this
I don't think they get
administration
shit
is
done.
still having trouble handling the fact that there's only two sexes, but
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like how the fuck do
uh,
we expect them to revamp the entire infrastructure?
but it
Like
is totally,
fuck.
you get my point. Where spending money on that is actually something you get your return on.
Yeah, but
Businesses thrive on having
yeah.
roads to use and shipping lanes to take advantage of. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're fine. It's
Um, yeah, industry grows on that stuff.
I agree completely, and the better the infrastructure, the cheaper it is to ship things, and the cheaper it is to ship things, the more supply and product companies can get in.
Move things around
Yeah,
and right.
yeah, completely. I
People spend more when more is available.
well remember, because in fucking government they're slimy bastards. Politicians are fucking slimy, okay? And I feel like a lot of these infrastructure bills, of course I haven't looked at them in detail. I've been really fucking busy. I'm struggling just to get these like once a week episodes fucking recorded and stuff. But aren't they doing that thing where they like slip a bunch of stuff into the bill that has nothing to do with the subject matter of the bill, just like they did with the last COVID relief
Yeah, they
bill?
call those omnibus bills,
Yeah, didn't they give like Pakistan over $2 billion
and that's
or
the
something for
left is
gender
resorting to that.
studies in the COVID
They
relief
they
bill?
gave him like 10 million.
Oh, I thought it
They,
was
they
like
only
$2
gave him
billion
10 million, but yeah, it was
Well,
for gender
that's still 10 million of
gender
taxpayer money,
studies.
dude. That's fucked. Like what the
Yeah, I
hell?
know. That's 10 million that could have gone towards a beefier stimulus check for the rest of us.
It could have gone
If
towards
nothing
that,
else,
or
it
I
could have
don't
gone
know,
into
building a
any
fucking
other
bridge or
program.
something. Like they're
Any other
saying, yeah.
program, right?
So that's. I wonder how much of that is going
Honestly, I
on
think
with the
stimulus checks were a
current bills.
mistake too. I mean, as much as I loved the fact that I bought my MP5 with them, don't get me wrong, stimulus was a mistake.
I'm not a happy camper about it because I didn't get it.
It was such a mistake.
I'm a dependent, dude. I live with my parents. I didn't get the stimulus bill, or I didn't get the stimulus check. Fucking went straight into my parents' bank account. And it's not that I
Right.
couldn't get it from them. Like I could try to fight that battle, but it's not really a hill I want to die on because they'd be like, "All right, well then you can use that money to buy your own damn groceries." And I'd be like, "No, I kind of want to, I don't know, buy a rifle with it." And they'd be
I
like,
was
"You don't
about to
need a
say, I
fucking
mean,
rifle."
it would eventually boil down to you'd have bought the same thing they bought anyway, basically.
Exactly. And that's why I didn't try to fight that battle because it's just pointless. But yeah. And then also the stimulus, it's so misleading. They call it stimulus checks. That doesn't stimulate the economy. Nobody it's very how do I explain it? Cuz so many people are like, "Oh, they're not adding enough money to the economy all at once for it to cause a massive amount of inflation," or they say something along the lines of, "Oh, but if this money is spent and thrown
Well,
back into the economy, it can't cause a great deal of inflation." But no. If you give everybody the same amount of money, like that
we don't have to begin with, by the way, mind you.
yeah, but everything has a
But I get why
rarity.
they call it stimulus.
But it doesn't stimulate anything.
It's not intended, and this is the problem. It's not intended to be used as a stimulus. It's basically your grocery money. You go out, you spend it on the normal things that you might not have.
Or your rent.
Except that's not how most people use their stimulus checks. Most people use their stimulus checks to go panic buy all of these survival items: guns, toilet paper, um, food rations, preserved
Well,
food,
a great deal of the
things like
people who
that.
were
No one
given
was set
stimulus checks didn't need
or
them.
rent or rent that they lost
Yeah,
from all
exactly.
the work that they were getting cut from.
Well, that's where a lot of it's a misconception. I'd say a vast majority of the people who got the stimulus check
And
didn't need
I mean
it.
that's my problem.
Yeah,
Right. That's the problem. We're talking about the people who make the amount of money that I do, but they have like two, three kids, they have a house, and then they get fired from COVID, and they're like, well, it's kind of hard to feed a family on the low to mid $20 per hour.
I agree. Especially if
You know,
COVID's just laying everybody off their jobs and making things more expensive and blah blah. Um, but I mean, everything has a rarity.
also when it comes out of the blue and you haven't had a chance to even see any of this coming and save.
Can you repeat that?
So
What did you say?
that also when you have something like this that comes out of the blue that
Oh yeah,
no one saw coming and had a chance to save for.
right. There's there's that.
And that adds to the severity artificially too.
Well, but the big problem with the stimulus checks is so many people are saying it won't affect inflation
It's
when
like
it
I'm just living
absolutely
my life
does.
normally, and all of a sudden, oh,
It
oh, it does.
Yeah, it does.
100%. We're
If you
seeing it now.
if you give everybody the same amount of money, you effectively made that exact amount of money, the specific amount that you gave everybody, basically is worthless. Because if everybody has something, it's worthless. That things are only worth how
Right.
rare they are. So like, it's not just with money. That's with
Everything is
everything.
based on exclusive value. Right.
Yeah, your voice doesn't matter the more you talk. Your reactions to things don't matter the more often you do it. I mean, everything. Everything. The more you do something, the more desensitized people come
How
to
many
it.
people listen when you talk is what matters.
Exactly. And if you want people to listen to you when you talk, you need to talk less and more rarely, because then it's more valuable when you do talk. And that's that's probably where I'm really fucking up the situation a little bit, because I'm
I was about
trying to
to
do podcasts and shit.
say
Yeah.
your podcast is literally all about you talking.
Well, hey, a little bit of healthy narcissism's okay every
That's
once in a while. You gotta you gotta cut me some slack, alright? At least at least I don't
so.
listen to them anymore. Alright, I used to just listen to myself on these fucking podcasts.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
You reminded me of fucking Jesus Christ, you reminded me of Arthur. The nickname I gave him, Ark the Narc. You remember that?
Yeah, because he thought he was like a fucking god or something, like he's shit gold. It was ridiculous. It was so
Oh my
fucked.
god. Good
Yeah.
times though.
Kinda. There was some actually really funny, fun stuff with him, but he's got so many fucking problems, dude. And he ended up really just getting too toxic there at the end. But
Yeah.
I mean, there's this one thing he did, and every time I tell people about it, they always act like that's like one of the worst qualities about him. And I honestly thought it was funny as shit. Like when we'd play battle royales, like PUBG and stuff with him. If you got trapped outside the zone while the storm was closing in, like while the zone shrank, like even if you were probably gonna make it out, if you got trapped outside the zone, he'd be like, "All right, I'm taking the shot," and would just like team kill you, and like quote unquote put you out, like mercy kill you or something. every time you got stuck outside the zone, and I don't know why. I always thought that was pretty fucking funny. Everybody else got really pissed off about it, but that specific thing, I thought that was pretty funny. I enjoyed that a little bit. But yeah.
I remember when PUBG was popular.
I don't think you ever got into that one with us, did you?
Those were not the days.
Well, the game was
No,
fucking unplayable, dude.
it's just the clunkiest game ever made,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't good. Well, if you thought that was the clunkiest game ever made, you should play fucking Hunt Showdown, dude. I don't know how so many of our guys play it, and I can't play it with them because it's awful. It's just so fucking clunky. I hate it. I hate every inch of that game, and I've tried on multiple occasions because I fucking bought it. I paid money for it, and I try on multiple occasions to just play it to like hang out with the boys, and I can't. I can't. I'll go a match, just get absolutely fucked by somebody, and like not even land a single shot on them, and be like, all right, fuck this game, and go play PC. Have you started
Yeah.
playing that? I think they said you were going to.
Hunt? No, fuck no. No, that I have no plans on buying that for two reasons. One, I don't think the premise is all that great. Battle Royale with 12 people on the map. I've never been a fan of PvEVP.
Or how
I've
about the
always just
weird,
liked PvP or plain PvE.
yeah,
I don't like the
or the
in-between
weird
crossovers.
voodoo magic Civil War Southern
It's
theme?
one of the things I have against Titanfall.
What's wrong with Titanfall?
Well, it's one of the things I have against Titanfall. I don't like AI mixed in with my PvP. It just doesn't belong.
Dude, I
Period.
loved it. I loved it
Well, I
so
hated the
much.
Warzone in Halo 5 too.
Now that was awful. Yeah, I hated that too. That wasn't enjoyable.
It's well, what's awful about having AI in PvP modes is that I expect to kill humans and get the satisfaction of killing a human player, and killing the AI who's just like, huh? Every
Right?
time you walk by it, it's like, all right, come on, really?
It's
There's nothing
yeah,
about this.
it's anti-competition and plus it's immersion breaking. Titanfall 2 was cool though because
So,
it had different game modes for all the different kinds of ways of playing the game though. So like you could do Titan Brawl or whatever the fuck, where you spawn in a Titan, everybody's in a Titan, there's no AI or anything, and it's just one team of Titans with one life versus another team of Titans with one life. Last man standing wins. There's another one where it's
right, and that was what I
yeah,
liked in Titanfall 1, and that was when I played the most by far.
right. And see, I didn't like the Titans, but I did really like the parkour PvP stuff, where like people are fucking ziplining around and flipping out and shit, and running on walls
Well,
and
I liked
stuff.
both of that,
Yeah.
but the elimination mode was pretty much the only AI free shit that I could play.
Right, and in Titanfall 2, they have
And it
that, but
was
it's pilots
fairly
instead of
competitive, which
Titans.
was my jam at the time.
Right. I like the normal mode though. I'm just saying in Titanfall 2 they came out with all these different game modes that like fit everybody's specific preference, which was enjoyable. The aesthetic in Titanfall 1 looked way better than Titanfall 2 though. In Titanfall 2 they suffered from 343 Industries syndrome where they like made things look too futuristic. Like unrealistically futuristic, you know what I'm saying?
It was fairly futuristic in both games.
In the
Um,
first one it looked like something that could happen in our
I think
lifetime though.
rather than over futurizing, so does the second one.
Oh, I strongly disagree. If you spend time in that, you like some of the designs and some of the technology and like just its aesthetic, it looks absolutely like impossible to do. Like completely.
Dude, I have to show you some of the new optics and weapons that have come out in the last year alone. Your mind will be blown.
Whatever, man. I'm sticking to my opinions. I've drank
I
a
do
little bit
agree though
tonight.
that
I'm not
the art
open minded.
style for Titanfall 2 was a little bit in the wrong direction, but I don't think it's because they over futurized everything. I think it's because they basically turned it into generic sci-fi.
Yeah, I don't think you're totally wrong, to be
There's
totally
sort of a
honest.
generic there's sort of a generic aesthetic. Um, and I don't want to say honest. I think, well, you know what? I think I will say it. It kind of piggybacks off Halo, really.
See, I don't see it
Where
at
you've
all.
got this sort of not rustic, but
Oh, you mean Bungie Halo,
semi-modern
don't you? Y-
humanity aesthetic.
yeah, I know what you're talking about. Kind of like a
Yeah,
kind of cyberpunky
where
in that.
all the modern sci-fi stuff kind of riffs off of Bungie's vision for humans. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, no,
And
I don't
then
disagree with that, and I love that aesthetic,
if
so that's
there's aliens
probably why I
involved,
really
they're
liked
always
it.
basically gods.
Yeah, but there weren't
Well,
any
it's a really
aliens in the
popular
Titanfall
aesthetic and it
series.
works, but when you see it in every popular shooter franchise, no, I know, but when there are in other games that have what I would call generic art styles, I mean, it's always, I mean, Mass Effect Andromeda, it
Right.
all looks Forerunner every single time,
Yeah, and that's
which is why the Covenant
yep.
and Halo pretty much stand out from the rest of the crowd because there's at least four different aesthetics in Halo, and everyone's copied them at some point.
That's because Halo has depth and layers, which is why it's so much better. Because the initial enemy is the Covenant, right? And they're more advanced than humans, but they're not like fucking
Right.
gods. You have the Forerunners, which don't even exist anymore in Bungie's Halo, and you just see
Who are
some of
like,
what's
yeah, let's
left.
let's let you walk across our light bridge, and you're just like,
Yeah,
whoa,
exactly. And then
you
there's the
know,
Flood, which is the other direction,
like
which is
we're gonna
so
bend
primitive.
particulate physics in front of your eyes
Yeah,
and just
exactly.
melt your brain with awesomeness, and you're
Yeah,
just like, okay,
like that really funny cutscene in Halo 1 where you turn on the bridge and it takes like a solid 10 seconds just to pan and be like, ooh. Right? But,
ooh.
yeah, ooh. And,
Meanwhile, nowadays we're like,
uh,
bridge turn on.
yeah, basically. Well, now it's like, oh, we're gonna
Back then that was
materialize a
cool as shit,
metal
though.
weapon in front of you that, like, floats in your hands. That's what they do now, and I'm like, oh, you took it too far. You took it too far. Um, and the
I
Flood
don't
go backwards.
mind that actually. That's kind of always where I thought Forerunner was gonna go.
Yeah, I agree, but it was better to theorize about it than actually have it in your hands like it's a common fucking coffee mug you find
Well,
on your
that's a
counter.
different argument, but you can't say that like you can't tell me that the light rifle from Halo 4 or 5 wasn't pretty much like the textbook Forerunner fanboy wet dream weapon though. Like that everyone who ever imagined what Forerunner weapons looked like was pretty much thinking of that exactly.
I don't disagree. It's just probably should have never been put into practice. I think the
What
Sentinel
the
beam was
argument
a
you're
stretch,
making
let
is
alone
like
all of it. Like, god damn it.
well, I think the argument you're making is basically if they did like a Master Chief face reveal, even if it's pretty much exactly what you were imagining, you're like, come on, man, we didn't need to know that.
Yeah, basically. They shouldn't have ever done it. But they didn't
Well, they
fully
didn't
do. They didn't fully do it. We
technically.
just know he's a white guy with blue eyes, which makes him
There's
racist.
enough left to interpretation. Yeah.
Um,
We're opening that can of worms too.
if you want to,
All right.
who was it I was talking to about it the other? Oh, I had Baron on the
Well,
podcast last
hang on.
episode. We talked about that.
Before we get into
What?
that realm of politics, I should fill you in on what I originally meant to tell you about with Arizona and the election.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Um, so basically, in specifically Maricopa County, Arizona, which turned out blue, by the way. When they were counting the ballots, they actually sent all of their tallies out to be scanned by a company that didn't have any observers and also wasn't being recounted by Dominion, which was the main voting system. And then afterwards, they deleted all the databases that the tallies and things were held on, and now they're refusing to surrender the routers and passwords to log into them.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it says off-site scanning was not done by Dominion machines and was not recorded by observers from either party.
Here, do you have Discord open in front of you right now?
I have to wake up my laptop, but yeah.
All right. So if you can bring up an article or something that you want to like cite, or even a picture if it's like of news or something, post that or post a link to that in the Discord chat, in the general chat. I can click on that link and then I can actually bring it up on the podcast. That way, like,
Sure.
yeah, it's just fact checking you. It's not that I don't believe
Linky.
you. Yeah, it's not that I don't
No, I know.
believe you. I've
I
seen
get
it.
it.
Yeah,
If I wasn't willing to link it, I wouldn't have said it.
exactly. So I'm just bringing it up real quick, and I'm not gonna make you link everything you talk about. It's just I know the fucking fraud with the election right now is so contentious that I'm not trying to have people like, oh, you guys didn't back it up with any facts, and you're just spouting shit. And I don't feel like dealing with that.
It's not letting me clip it directly to Discord, but I can supply a URL to the YouTube here where the video is at.
It won't let you copy and paste the URL into the general chat.
I can do that, yeah.
Yeah, just do that.
Do you want me to put it
fine.
in general, or do you want me to put it...
Put it in general, yeah.
Okay. Paste. Alright. This is your fault if people light my shit up, though. But, there it is.
The only people in the only person who would is probably Jake.
Basically...
Yes, I want to accept the URL.
But basically, what's going on is the Arizona State Senate is demanding that these routers and passwords to log in be surrendered to them, and the folks who were in charge of running that election in that county were saying no, sorry.
they're just saying, nah, you're not allowed to investigate. Basically.
Well, basically they're saying it's a security risk, and then everyone else who's actually looking at it, and anyone who knows what a router actually does, by the way, or what you're doing when you make a forensic copy of what's on a router, knows that it's, it is local, it's secure, and it's not online when you make a forensic copy. There is no way that it compromises anyone.
Oh, okay. I can bring up the entire fucking video on this. That's cool. I haven't done that before. Alright, give me a second. How long is this? It's 4 minutes?
It's like 4 minutes. It's probably not something I would throw up in the middle of our podcast, but I would link it if that's something that our viewers are interested in.
Well, I think I just indirectly linked it, so there we go. All good. Here you guys go. Check out this fucking video if you want to fact check us. It was on the news. Not that I inherently trust the news, but, it's the best we can do right now. So
question everything, boys. Obviously.
Yeah, question everything. I mean, I get my fucking news from podcasts, from comedians, mostly. So I'm not one to talk. But, it'd be that way. I'll hide that away.
Well, it's one of those things where I keep saying, ever since 2020 was decided, everyone's like, nothing to see here, move along. If you so much as dissent even a little bit, you're getting your channel shut down or your video at least copyright stricken.
Right, and that's
like, dude, there were people for still people will let go of the whole collusion conspiracy with Trump. Like, what? How is that not the same thing?
It is, actually. It's almost exactly the same thing. It just so happens that a lot of the big tech stuff that has the power to censor things happen to be pro-left at the moment. But it's not like the right doesn't do this kind of shit either. They absolutely do.
I know.
Like, it goes
and
both
if given
ways.
the chance, they probably would do the same fucking... They are definitely capable of the same chicanery.
Yeah.
Well... If allowed.
The way they used to do it was through religious terms, is what I would say. That's where I'm actually, like, fairly liberal, is the way radical right-leaning individuals can use, like, religious fundamentalism as, like, a fucking iron fist.
I'm not even sure that you can completely say that, because the Catholic Church has always been more liberal, and lately it's been shoving liberalism down their constituents' throats.
That's only through a collectivist lens, though. They're still conservative in the sense of traditionalism and rules and strictness and shit like that. And then the only reason they're allowing more secular practices and being okay with, like, gay people and stuff is because they don't want to isolate certain populations and stop their numbers from growing. Because right now their numbers are fucking plummeting. And it's not just Catholicism, it's religion as a whole. It's just... we're living in a secular world.
Turns out people see organized bullshit for what it is.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Martin Luther's Protestant uprising had it right. There is no one who should be between a conversation that I have with God at all.
If that was totally what people got out of what Martin Luther had to say, and it's not, Some
I mean,
people
that's the
did.
basic premise. He
Yeah.
basically was like, yeah, the priesthood's a joke. You don't need a middleman.
Well,
You
think about
define
all
your own
the other
relationship
sects
with
of
God.
Christianity
Fuck
that
the
came
Catholic
out of that,
Church.
though. Think about how many different massive ass church powers there have been in the wake of that. It's not.
Do you
It's been
You're looking
ridiculous.
at it through the wrong lens, though. I mean, that's actually a blessing because that means people have been left and able to um, determine their own relationships with God as they see fit
Yeah.
and not be persecuted for it. That's the important part. I
Well,
mean,
they're
yeah,
almost
there are some
always
people that I would
persecuted
say
by
are
their own
fucking
community.
crazy.
They're almost always persecuted
Absolutely.
by their own community. But in general, society as a whole, you can kind of worship whatever the fuck you want as long as you're not like sacrificing people and shit.
I
And
was about to say, as
that's a
long as you're
plus.
not literally breaking,
Laws.
the pinnacle laws of do not murder, steal,
Yeah.
vandalize, deface, and otherwise. Uh,
It goes
Part of that
deeper
too
than
is that
that.
all of
But
those same laws are actually the central tenets of being uh, a good person religiously, whether that be Muslim, Christian, Jew. I mean,
oh, that's
pretty
where we
much,
can't.
pretty much
That's
most
where
of the
we
big
can't
faiths come
agree.
down to the same thing.
We can't agree to that. I mean, a lot of their core tenets try to do something like that, but their deeper teachings, especially after they get expanded upon in their various books, whether it be the Torah, the Quran, the Bible, they almost always get ridiculously collectivist and suggest that you should sacrifice yourself for like the greater good of the community or some shit. And I can't jive that at all because it completely negates like individualistic purpose from the human condition when I think that's like the greatest gift human beings have. Sorry, I got so fucking philosophical there, but
I guess. Well, no, no,
I've
no, no. I
sat
think
on
there's
this with
something to that,
Catholicism
but
for so long.
I think you're overgeneralizing now because basically, what that all of the heroes that you read about in any legend are heroes because they sacrifice. They sacrifice for their community. They sacrifice for their honor, for the people they love and they care about. I mean, sacrifice is pretty much the definition of the human condition. What are you willing to give?
I think that's what happens in a great deal of the hero's journey, but that's not the only way the hero's journey is described. One version of the hero's journey in stories that I actually really like is one of the in the Egyptian mythology. Actually, I'm trying to remember who it was. It wasn't Ra. It was Osiris or something. One of the gods had to go down to the underworld and basically fight their version of Satan. And he was able to. He had to sacrifice something, yes, but he still got to exist and still
I
got
mean, the
to
fact that he
have the
went down
fruits
to
of
go
his
literally
labor.
fight fucking Undertaker is kind of a sacrifice in itself, though. I mean, he's putting his life on the line.
It is, but it's to help himself in a way. Like it's. I don't know how to explain it because it's not that I don't think you should help others. It's that I don't think you should wreck yourself for others. I'm a strong believer that your room has to be clean
Well,
before you try to clean
all
the
right.
room, or
Counterpoint to
not the
that,
room, the
even
world.
Jesus admits that, though.
He does, but it depends on which part of the Bible you want to cherry pick, especially when you've got some fucking religious hierarch who's trying to tell you to sacrifice
Well,
your shit for the greater good of the
let's
community.
get one thing out of the way right now. The Old Testament is not Christianity. That's basically the Torah. That's Judaism. The
Mm-hmm.
New Testament is entirely the word of, well, what the Gospels say is the word of Jesus. Right.
Well, something that Christianity in the New Testament specifically does propriate, and that I am a big fan of, is redemption in individuals. No
Well,
matter
yeah,
what you
I
do,
mean,
you can redeem yourself, and that
I,
I'm a fan of that.
everyone's played Skyrim here who's watching this podcast, I'm sure, but Parthenax has a line that says, "What is better, to be born inherently good, or to overcome your evil nature through great effort?"
Yeah, actually, I plan on getting a tattoo of that. By the way, there's a few quotes I want a tattoo of, but that's that saying specifically is kind of what I live my entire life by and what I struggle with every day.
Redemption is absolutely something um, that we as a culture, I think we do cherish it. I think that
Less
it
and
is a
less, though.
constructive
We go through
belief.
cycles.
Um,
Like, how do I explain it? For a long time, the in our recent lifetimes, conservatives had a fall from glory. Our general community, where we lost the idea of redemption in the individual, and therefore you had a bunch of leftists and quote unquote progressives like around the '60s. So not in our lifetimes, but in our general frame of history, around the 60s, who were like way more left leaning and way more based on human spirituality. And then we've seen the new shift where conservatives are more along those lines and leftists and liberals are more like, oh, you said something racist 20 years ago and didn't even mean it, but there is no redemption. You're just evil now and you need to be canceled and removed from public light or whatever the fuck. Like,
Well, that's
cycles.
that in that sense. It's not technically not giving. We're not willing to give a chance for redemption, but it's have you really changed, and how do I believe you?
Well,
And in
if you don't
politics,
hear
and right
somebody
now,
out, you'll never
right
know.
now in politics, hear me out. I mean, like that's something that is really hard to believe when someone's like, "Oh, I've changed."
How genuine people are.
Like, I wouldn't believe a politician, no matter what party, no matter what their politics are, who did or said something heinous 20 years ago and is like, I'm a different person now. Like, bitch, you're still in Washington. No, you aren't.
Well, what it is to me is what was their profession? How much money do they make? Where does their money come from? And what was their profession before becoming a politician? Because you've got the fucking rhinos who and career politicians who've made a job out of it and have like created entire family dynasties and shit out of the realm of politics as a career only. Yeah, or whatever the fuck Pelosi's been doing. Yeah, the Clintons, all of that shit. And then you've got people like Tulsi Gabbard, who just saw our community, thought it was kind of shit, and wanted to do something about it. And that's a completely different story, in my opinion. I don't know how I feel about Ted
It
Cruz
doesn't
right
matter
now,
what
but
the
he used to be one of
story
those
is. If
boys.
you've managed to stay in Washington for 30 years or more, I'm sorry, you've got no sympathy from me. Because
Because
at a certain point, if you haven't managed to get anything in 30 years done, you're either ineffectual and you need to get the fuck out, or you're abusing the system and you need to get the fuck out.
so your premise is like, if you're still in Washington because there's more work to be done, you're ineffective. And if you're still in Washington because you completed the work you wanted to get done, then you're manipulating the system.
Right, basically.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
There's a president that I like and admire. This may make me unpopular.
Calvin Coolidge, please.
No, not Cal. I
Damn
mean,
it.
yes, he was great.
Yeah,
Um,
I like Calvin.
but I believe the one that I'm about to reference is James K. Polk, who started the Mexican-American War.
I don't know how I feel
Literally
about
one-term guy, one-term president. Laid out exactly what he wanted to do, did it, expanded the territory of the United States by 30% in one term, negotiated with Britain for Oregon and Washington State, passed a banking reform bill, redid the entire U.S. tax code, and I believe he paved the way for an infrastructure bill, all in 4 years, and then literally was like, yep, I accomplished what I set out to do. I'm out.
leaving. He didn't even run for a second term, did he?
No.
Damn. I see why you admire that bastard. That makes sense.
He's like, I see a need for change. I'll be the agent for change.
He
Now
did.
that I've done exactly what I wanted to do,
Yeah.
I don't need the power anymore.
He did what
See
he
ya.
wanted to do, and after he got his legacy done, he was like,
I may have the wrong president. Hang on. Polk
no,
doesn't
Polk
sound right
definitely started the war on the southern border. I know he did because he marched troops along the Rio Grande or whatever the fuck to piss him off. I learned about it in, like, 7th grade social studies or some shit.
for that. Yeah, 45 to 49.
Yep.
Protege of Andrew Jackson.
Yep.
Yeah.
Andrew Jackson is not my favorite president because he's evil. Like I'm not even gonna say he's not.
I
But
would
he's
actually say
also
he's
terrifying.
competent.
Yeah, he's so I don't think he's a good person. I think he's a pretty immoral individual, but he's also one of the
And
most
that's a
badass
distinction
people
that
to
I would
ever
award
live.
someone like Polk versus someone like Jackson. Polk
Right.
was brutal. Obviously, starting a war with Mexico is just not something that, everyone's like, hell yeah, killing
Yeah,
Mexicans,
Exactly.
right? I mean, like, that's probably not the best decision morally. However, it totally made things great for America, made things great for American settlers who wanted to expand and have a shake at exploring the frontier. and obviously increases the nation's power and resources by, well, at the time, I don't think he could fully comprehend what he would eventually end up doing. But boy, talk about the law of unintended consequences. All that oil that he secured for us unintentionally.
Indirectly. But yeah. Well, he. So, like, yeah, there's something I've learned to understand in, like, the last year or so, and it's that one, in history, every human being is massively flawed. Every single one. And that doesn't mean you can't appreciate their accomplishments and not give them credit when it's due. So, like,
And the part of Pope that I'm admiring is his willingness to throw away the power once he's done what he wanted to with it, instead of
exactly.
just.
And that is something to admire because truly libertarian and American individuals don't want power over their
Or,
countrymen. Yeah, it's the last thing you want. Instead, you want to just teach everybody how to fish so that they have no need to try to take the fish from somebody else.
right, and in this case, he's basically building a sandbox for Americans to succeed in.
Exactly. And yeah, he was building the ecosystem, which is what the fucking foreign or not foreign, what the federal government's supposed to do is create the chessboard in which the Americans play the game on. That's the whole point.
And
And
maintain it.
yeah, and maintain it. Make sure that the board doesn't get cracked in half when somebody throws a hissy
Or
fit.
inflatable.
Yeah. And you got to amend the rules every once in a while because sometimes it's fucking broken.
Well, yeah, no one's perfect.
Yeah, I mean sometimes
I can't
sometimes
write a
you're
perfect law.
yeah.
I wouldn't expect anyone to.
Well, sometimes an oil company gets so fucking big and powerful that it can just stop
That it
manufacturing one
destroys
day
the
that it
idea of a
destroys
free
the
market.
economy, yeah. And it doesn't only
Yeah.
cause a depression, but it does it twice because you tried telling them what to do. Right? But it happens every once in a while and you amend shit after the fact. There's actually this is something I was thinking about earlier leading up to knowing we were going to be recording this podcast, but there's something I struggle with. I think it's an aspect of the human spirit that I kind of wanted to dissect with you. It's like, do you ever like watch Game of Thrones or something, or like play a certain aspect of a video game, or like something that really does it to me is watching The Men Who Built America, which is like about Rockefeller and Carnegie and J.P. Morgan and everybody, and Vanderbilt and all that stuff. You ever get that like vibe where you just like want to fucking take over the world or something, and then you think about it and you're like, nah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to cause war and hurt people, but you still have that like part of your spirit where you're like, nah, man, I want to like raise countries and shit, or like control business empires and like just like random bursts of ambition. You ever get hit with any of that kind of shit? Ever
From
daydream
time to
about it?
time, I've thought about. This is so cringe. I've thought about turning the United States of America into an imperialist regime, uh, basically fielding clone troopers and taking over the filthy, retarded backwater third world countries and just turning them into like the United Earth government and then ransacking the solar system with my stormtroopers
I
from
think
time to
you've
time.
I think you've thought you've thought about this in greater depth than I ever did. That's funny as shit. Jesus Christ. But yeah, you've got it too. Then I guess apparently. I think this is gonna be a question that I ask people on a regular basis because like I don't think people are inherently evil. I don't think we're inherently good either. But I'm kind of fascinated with the difference between somebody who just like goes and clocks
I
in
disagree
for.
with that.
Well, hold up. I'm fascinated with the people with the difference between the people who just go and clock into a job early in the morning, clock out in the evening, go home, do whatever they do, and then repeat the process, and they do that till they die. And then there's people like fucking Andrew Jackson, who's just ridiculously ruthless, or Winston Churchill, who comes back from like accidentally getting the entire fucking British Navy killed to the Germans in World War One, or fuckers like Hitler who create economic superpower, commit genocide, and try to take over the entire world, or Stalin who starves his own people to create a military superpower to do the same thing Hitler did, or just shit along those lines. You know what I'm saying? Like, what the fuck makes people do
Hear,
shit like
hear me
that?
out though. I mean, There absolutely are people who are born decent on the inside, if not outright good. And allow me to indulge a little bit in a little bit of healthy narcissism here, as you stated earlier.
Yeah.
But there are people like me out there who literally go out and return their shopping carts because it's the right thing to do, even though that there's no negative consequences for literally leaving it right in the same spot that I parked my car and leaving it for some uh, cart clerk or whatever to come by and pick it up.
Okay.
There are people like me who clock in early, who call early if they're going to be late, or otherwise stay. You know, if an employer needs you to stay late and work extra hours and it's all voluntary, you're just like, yeah, sure, I've got the time. I mean, that's
Were you born that way, or did you become that way through overcoming your own evil nature? Not
I would
evil's
say
the
I
wrong
was born
word.
that way.
Evil's the wrong word, but
Because
I
well, I mean,
definitely
I
was
guess
born
this
that
is
way.
this is subject. This part's subjective. Obviously, I was raised in a good home,
Yeah.
but um, I do believe in the idea that there are gentle souls and there are angry souls.
See, I wouldn't call. First off, I definitely don't think you're a gentle soul. I think you've definitely got a strictness to you that you can employ when necessary, and I think it's funny as shit. But I would say gentle souls aren't inherently good because they're incapable of evil. They're just weak. People who are incapable of doing any kind of negative action aren't inherently good. They're just inherently incapable. The words of Jordan Peterson is met you want to be capable of doing monstrous things and choose not to do so. It's in line with the quote you quoted from Parthen X perfectly. That they're almost
Kind
the
of,
same
except
thing.
that I guess this depends on how you define gentle soul. But I do believe that you can be a gentle soul and still be capable of great terror and power,
Right.
and you
So
can also be a gentle soul and be an absolute sheep.
I think we agree on the premise, we don't agree on where the premise comes from. Because personally, I don't think anybody's born good or born evil. I think everybody has proclivities for things when they're born and then is molded into that through nurture, the nature versus nurture debate. I think everybody's a blank slate with maybe some
Basically,
proclivities
confirmation
genetically.
bias, essentially.
Yeah, basically, that's how I feel about it. Ultimately, I don't think because you have certain proclivities due to genetics generally,
By the
including
way,
emotionally and stuff, but what happens
something
to
to
you
say
during
on
your
the
development
side.
determines that. What's up?
Everyone out there who doesn't return their shopping cart is a fucking degenerate. That is all.
I don't disagree with you. You know, I spent a very long, cold winter fucking out there alone till 9 o'clock at
Like,
night
I never even
grabbing
had that
those
as my
fucking
fucking
cards.
job or anything. I've never worked in a supermarket my entire life, but fuck people who just don't care about anything other than themselves.
Well,
Basically, is what that's doing.
well, there's that, and then there's also people who leave it there thinking, oh, somebody gets paid to get this. It's not my problem. That's what a lot of people's conceptualizations are behind it. And I see the point of that, but where a lot of people go wrong, and this is where like me and my dad get into a big argument a lot of the time. A lot of people who work shit jobs are working shit jobs to put food on the table and keep the lights on. It's not because they want to work that job. So it's like I always
Never
want to.
forget about
Yeah.
that fact. Maybe this is the softy in me here speaking, but I
What's
mean,
up?
what about just putting a smile on somebody's face when they don't have to go do something extraneous or menial?
Well, that's what I was about to say to you. Actually, is it's not even that you're inherently a good person, which I do think you're a good person, by the way. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying, but when you do activities like that, I think it's more like trying to implement the golden rule in like a fairly libertarian fashion. You're more like, if the roles were reversed, what would I want somebody to do? I would
Right.
really fucking like it if they put this fucking card away for me.
Especially when in the
Yeah,
shopping cart example, it barely inconveniences the shopper.
exactly. Especially if
Like
you're
there's
not an
always at
idiot
least
and you
like three
park in a good
docks out in the
spot.
middle of a parking lot.
Well, if you just park in a remotely decent spot, which normally you can, then it's really not hard for you, and you're good. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it's not that hard. Now, here's something that pisses me off. I know a few people who just bitch and complain about the bad attitudes and like the bad service from like fucking clerks, like cashiers and stuff, like at
Hmm.
Walmart. And I'm like, bitch, there are officially more self checkouts than there are normal checkouts. And like the people I'm talking about like are known for disliking people, so it's like why would you go the fucking checkout route with a cashier at it if you always have negative experiences? Why don't you solve your own fucking problem and use the fucking tools at your disposal to do it yourself, do it right, and get out of there faster?
Right.
And that's
Or if it's at
just
a
a gripe of
location
mine.
that you visit habitually, what's the harm in saying, even if the guy's a little bit rude to you, maybe he's just having a bad day. Every time I go anywhere, unless the guy's like stepping on my toes trying to get rid of me somehow, I'm always like, have a great day, thank you.
Right. Like
Like
even if it was
it's
a
such a
negative
small
experience.
thing. It's
Yeah.
such a small thing. And honestly, sometimes, I mean, it's happened to me where someone's like, all right, you have a great one, thanks for helping me. I'm like, thank you. Like,
Yeah, those are
you
always
didn't have
good
to say that.
experiences. Dude, did I tell you there has been a time that I've gone into Walmart and had a customer ask me where something is since I've quit? And like they recognized me, they knew I worked there.
Really.
Yeah, that's happened to me once, and they were asking me about lawn and garden shit, which was like a year ago that I was doing that kind of shit. Like, yeah, it really weirded me out. And like I helped them, but I also slid in like, "Hey, I don't work here anymore," and they kind of just like shrugged me off and went into my directions and got
It
their
doesn't
shit.
matter, I have a question.
Yeah, basically, I was like, "God damn, all right." But yeah. Here we can change the subject a little bit because we definitely got really fucking philosophical there for a second.
So we've been all over the place. Politics, ammunition, construction of ammunition,
Philosophy,
fraud,
history, yeah, political
religion.
fraud, religion. Yeah, we've touched on everything. Holy shit. Yeah, I'm kind of proud of this one. This is the ultimate, just like all over the place
Fuck
podcast.
around and waiting to
Yeah,
find out, basically.
basically, yeah.
I'm waiting to see how many angry people respond to you from all the shit we've talked about.
Well,
I know that I know that all the shit that I've said is definitely not copacetic and mainstream dialogue. So
well, here actually, my last video, not in terms of the number of views, but in terms of like how long people watched and stuff like that, like actual views, was like my best video ever. The last one I
mhm.
posted, and it got me like 2 subscribers too, which is a big deal for one video to do for me.
Right.
But yeah, it's sitting at 37 views right now, and most of my
What are your
videos
comment
only get
sections looking
19.
like,
Well,
if
see, that's
anything?
the thing. 37 people have like actually watched this 3-hour podcast. They don't all sit there for 3 hours, but most of them sit there for most of it lately.
Hmm.
And fucking, and that was only 6 days ago, by the way. That's why it's like my best video ever. In 6 days, it got 37 views. When the last one, which was like a really good video, was posted 3 weeks ago and only got 19 views. So like, that's the episode with Baron. The episode with Baron did like really fucking well. But the thing is nobody comments anything. That's
Really?
what's yeah. Nobody comments shit here. Like I might even just leave a comment and be like, "Bro, comment." No, I'm not gonna do that. That's
No, don't do that. That's
yeah. But
no. But
yeah,
one of these times, I'm
Baron's
gonna come
really
up with
well.
something like horrible to say that's gonna instigate the fuck out of somebody.
I don't know. Nobody ever leaves a
I'm
comment.
hoping for it. I don't even care if someone like shits on my entire livelihood in the way that I think. I just want to see something.
Just because you want the
I want a
political
response.
strife. You just want the craziness to happen.
No, not craziness. I just want to see a reaction.
Hmm. Well,
Although
yeah.
if it happens to be crazy, it would be a reaction. So
Something I say almost every episode because every episode whoever's guest like asks me how the fucking podcast is doing or like how many views comes up in conversation or something, and it's like I don't know. So like that last video is the best one I've ever had, not for number of views, but for how many engaged viewers there are, and it's like one, not very many likes, but also not very many dislikes, and then no comments in terms of how many views there are. And I think a lot of that's
uh,
because not everybody has a YouTube profile, or
are
like
they the same people coming back? Or
so a lot of them are new this time. But what's what's weird is normally it is the same people because the amount of views I get every video are almost the exact same every video. It's almost always in the realm of like 12 to 16 views for every video. And then if I name a video a certain thing or put a certain type of hashtag on it, then that
Mm-hmm.
generally gets more views because algorithms give it to people.
Right.
And so, like for instance, I did a social media stocks and cryptocurrency episode during the GameStop thing,
Mm-hmm.
and that got 26 views, which was pretty high compared to the normal viewer amount.
Right.
Still no
That's over
likes or
double.
dislikes or anything. Yeah, and that's just because it was during the. It's because I kind of actually did marketing for once.
You timed it right. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, some do better than others. Like for instance, I did that one meditation episode where it was just I have two meditation episodes. Those are solo episodes where I just talk about something I was philosophizing about. And my first one, I think because it had a Skyrim backdrop in it, actually did pretty okay. And it hold on, let me see if I can. Yeah, it has 20 views on it actually, which isn't that bad. But then meditation number 2, I did a Minecraft backdrop and now it has 6 views. And I'm like, "Damn." And then sadly, me and Lyrics gaming episodes aren't doing very good. I'm sad about that. his gaming our last episode has 5 views, and I think it's because we need to focus more on gaming news rather than talking about game theory. But
Yeah,
I'll
probably.
adjust. Yeah, I'll adjust with that. Make sure he sets up like an actual
I
checklist of
still
stuff to talk
think
about.
this podcast, I would still mega love to hear somebody else's opinion on it in the comments. Hint, hint. But Halo custom games or something mindless to watch in the background would absolutely be awesome.
You really just yeah, you keep saying that. I haven't heard that from anybody else yet, but if I ever got any comments suggesting things, I'd definitely read them. I don't think people realize if they left a fucking comment on one of my videos,
It's like just like no
I'd
audio
freak out.
gameplay with our audio
Yeah,
looped over it. I mean, like just watching us fuck around in different points of view. I mean, that would be well. I mean, it'd be something other than a thumbnail to stare at the entire time. I mean, some people I'm sure just listen to it in passing at work or doing something else, but
right. Well, that's the
those
market
for
I'm
those
trying to
who are
break
sitting
into.
there, for
Yeah.
those who are sitting there and watching it, having something there would be something.
Well, that's the
And
market I'm really
it might
trying to break
also
into
go
is
into
like the Joe
different markets
Rogan.
that you may not be trying to break into, but may suit you.
Oh, right. Well, what I'm really trying to go for is the people who are like me, who are working a job where they just could work with earbuds in and listen to while they were doing menial tasks. They could listen to podcasts all day long. Because what I ran into really quick is I ran out of podcasts to listen to. If you got a 10-hour workday, dude, and you only like certain kinds of podcasts, the Joe Rogan Experience only uploads like one video a week, one or two videos a week. That's not gonna last you 5 10-hour shifts. You know what I mean?
Well, in that case, if that's what you're going for, then rather than having people like me who only read passively about certain topics from time to time, you might want somebody who knows a lot more about what they're talking about, who studies a subject um, very intensely.
Well,
That might give people who have
more
opposing
intellectual.
or agreeing views with you
Right.
something to think about.
Yeah, and I plan on doing that. It's about getting those kind of people though. And also I like having my friends on the podcast as well. I want to do both.
Right. I'm just saying I'm not dumb. At least I don't think I am.
You're not dumb.
But I'm also not a certified expert in doing anything.
Right.
I'm not professional, even though I have a bachelor's degree in game art. Like that doesn't make me a professional game artist. Like I've yet to get a major gig with any AAA studio. So
I think that's how college works, sadly. You don't right now college is pissing me off and I'm yeah, I guess this is where the subject matter of the
Well,
fucking
I mean, a
podcast is
degree
going.
basically says that you know what you're doing. You know how to look for information that pertains to what you do, and you know how to learn from it. It doesn't mean that you have the experience doing it.
Well,
That's the difference between a professional and an amateur.
the degree I'm getting is I know how to copy and paste test questions into the Google search bar and then click on the answer for the test. that's that's how I'm getting
Hell
my
yeah.
degree right now. Yeah. I'm dead ass, dude. I took Oh my god. So did you I don't think you did, but did you take any sociology classes in
No,
college? So I was required to, and I
I
took a
don't think I'd have been
sociology
able to sit
class.
through them without being stabbed, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, thankfully I'm in like an online course, so I don't have like these Zoom classrooms where people can hear me and like all this kind of shit. It's all like completely asynchronous. I don't have to talk to anybody or really interact with anybody. If I have a question, I just like email the professor. But it's just so politically charged, and it is literally founded in Marxism, or a lot of it is. That's not for people listening. That's not me being like an asshole conservative and saying socialism is for or not socialism, sociology is for commies. It's no, like my textbook literally quotes Karl Marx and says a shit ton of its foundations are found within Karl Marx and his Communist Manifesto. Like the textbook literally fucking says that. So chill. Um, but like it's so politically charged, and so much of the class was basically just the prof telling me I'm a bad person for a bunch of shit I can't control, and then when it was telling me I'm a bad person for shit I could control, it was the only shit I was proud of myself for. Like something I really love about myself in a fairly narcissistic fashion, but I think is healthy, is my entrepreneurial
Healthy
spirit.
narcissism,
Yeah,
asterisk. That's our term for the
exactly.
day.
It is healthy narcissism. Something I really like about myself is fucking my entrepreneurial spirit, right? And then this fucking sociology textbook basically tells me I'm Satan for wanting to employ people and grow and like, capitalism. And I'm like, all right, man. Well, I don't think I'm an evil bourgeois. I'm sitting here barely making it through college right now, working for a siding company with a pretty crazy
Nah,
fucking
miss me with that
boss.
deflection, you fucking slave driving capitalist fucking.
Yeah, I am bourgeoisie pig. But like yeah, and I was just at my wits end with it, and I almost didn't pass the class because I spent like 3 fucking days writing this paper for the class because the class had one paper in it, and it was like a really stupid paper with no fucking substance either. It was like choose a song, but it has to be about one of these three subjects from our chapters, and the chapters were gender, racism, and poverty. It was one of those three things. Choose a song from any time period. You're not allowed to talk about the time period it was found in, though. You're not allowed to talk about the band or the artist. You're not allowed to talk about any of that. Only talk about the lyrics and how they make you feel pertaining to that subject or some shit. And I did it, and it was actually like a 16 fucking page paper. But then in the last paragraph, I was supposed to say, what did I learn from this assignment and what have I learned from the class this far? And it was like, be honest. And I was like, okay, I'll fucking be honest. And like really was honest and said some shit along the lines of like, what I've learned in this class is that sociology is an absolutely morally bankrupt field of study. It's a fake science, and it's entirely just class. It's classism at its finest, and all it is politically motivated. And I don't understand how it can be a general education course. And in this class, when I'm not allowed to speak my own opinions without being ostracized, it's fucked. And that's basically the gist of what I said. I didn't say it was fucked for those listening, but something along those lines is what I said in a very polite manner. And she like almost failed me on that paper, and I almost failed the class. And to pass the class, because prior to that point all it was quizzes, and they were worth 50 points each, I would score like 35 or 40 points on them because I'm not a fucking socialist. It's really fucking hard to to take these quizzes and get 100%. So to pass the class, I resorted to cheating so I could get 100% every fucking week by just copy and pasting the questions into the Google search bar, finding Quizlets that have already been created for the course, and boom, bada bing. Now I got a passing grade in the class. Didn't learn a thing, except that sociology actually is communism. That's not like just being an asshole. It's where it gets its roots from. That's what I learned. You there? I know I talked a lot.
Yeah, I'm still there.
Yeah, sorry.
I was waiting for you to finish. That's all.
Yeah, it was quite the experience, man. I had a lot to say. Son of a bitch.
Obviously, it left a mark on you.
A little bit. I'm a little fucked up. And the fact that I was paying somebody to do this to me, it was just like, bruh, are you fucking kidding me right now? Shit.
She is innocent of this crime.
Yeah, exactly. I have wares to sell. But yeah, that really bothered me. The whole college situation in our country really bothers me. I mean, I had that conversation with you and Jake. Think it's bankrupt morally.
Well, I don't know about morally bankrupt, but it is philosophically bankrupt. And I think college is the most intellectually disingenuous scam that we put on our kids nowadays.
Yeah.
Um,
How's that not
but
morally
I don't
bankrupt?
morally. Well, I mean, technically, there is no moral to knowledge.
I would
What you
agree
do
with
with it
you.
is what defines your morality.
I would agree with you if they weren't constantly teaching sciences that didn't need to exist. So like coming from the perspective
Well,
of
you wouldn't call
go
that
for it.
morally bankrupt teaching, though. You would just use the word indoctrination.
It's morally I'm not even talking about all the shit that's politically charged. The reason it's morally bankrupt is because you're convincing people to spend money on something and requiring it in quotes when it's not real. That's why it's morally bankrupt, because it's a scam. An
Except
intentional
that
one
you
at
have to
that.
understand that these advisors really do actually think that it's necessary now.
Right, but that means the system is morally bankrupt. That doesn't mean the people within it are. It's the same
As
concept
long
of
as at least as long as we make that distinction.
sure, yeah, I'll make that distinction. I do the same thing in politics all the time. I don't think liberals are evil. I really don't. I think that the people in charge of
Well,
both parties are
frankly,
evil.
I think the definition for liberal and leftist right now is undergoing a massive change.
Oh yeah, and there's two like
They don't mean the same thing anymore.
technically I'm fairly liberal in my beliefs, but I'm definitely not a leftist. And ideologically, I would say leftists are evil. I don't think their intentions are evil. I think their outcomes are, though. You know what I mean? I don't think evil intentions have to be present for an outcome to be evil inherently. I don't know how you feel about that. To get more
No,
philosophical.
kind of. Well, yes and no. Because while your initial intention may be noble, somewhere along the middle of the road, you may have to, well, people do usually come to realizations that you have to break an egg to make an omelet. A little bit of evil now outweighs the evil prevented in the future,
All
as
right,
their reasoning
Machiavelli.
usually goes. No villain is truly evil in their own mind.
Right.
They're just making sacrifices in the name of the greater good. Which is also why there's no such thing as a true hero, going back to our hero's arc discussion. The heroes in every mythology always sacrifice, whether that be their loved ones, their possessions, their livelihoods. I mean, there's always a sacrifice to be made, and then the story of a villain, it's because it's not worth it.
Right. Well, I mean, and that's where you get
Whereas
the
a
idea of
hero,
badly
that's
written
literally, well, I mean,
villains.
that's pretty much the classic distinction between a hero and a villain historically, is whether or not society thinks their sacrifices were. Look at George Washington.
What? Go into
You can
detail.
technically construe him as an insurrectionist, a terrorist. I mean, but he won. We're a
Well,
free
I think
nation.
most people hit him for his slave owning practices. I think that's what most people hit the founding fathers for, is their slave owning practices. That's
And
what
you could
most people
argue
hate
that
him
his
for.
plantation gave him the capital required to help jumpstart the revolution.
Well, that's not
Breaking
even.
a few eggs to make an omelet.
Yeah,
I
that
mean, he didn't obviously own slaves to begin with for that. That was never his intention at all.
right.
However, my point here stands is that because we deem as a society, as America, that his actions were justified. I mean, it pretty much just whitewashes him. He's a hero. But if he'd lost, I don't think we'd be seeing him the same way.
Well, that and what's normal during a certain time period is almost never thought about when people think back in history. And that's very important. People did really stupid shit in the past, and some really smart people did really stupid shit in the past just because it was normal or expected of them. Very few people, especially during the initial founding of our country, were anti-slavery. Very few people. It was kind of like, I believe it was the main economic driving force for like civilization everywhere. So it's like,
I mean, it was one of them for a long time, but
yeah,
industrialization pretty much cemented slavery's demise,
which
no
is
matter what.
a better
When a
outcome.
machine, I mean,
Yeah.
it's capitalism.
Yep.
If I can have a machine that does the job of 10 slaves faster,
And doesn't need
better,
shelter, doesn't die,
and it
doesn't
doesn't
need,
need to be clothed,
yeah.
fed, sheltered, I mean, dude, why would I not buy the machine?
And you don't have to fight a war over whether or not you can keep the machine. That's
Like,
all.
it's just
Yeah.
anyone who says slavery was not dying in the 1800s is full of fucking shit.
Right. No, that's yeah. Yeah, that's where the states' rights
Industrialization,
argument falls flat about the Civil War and
industrialization was
shit.
always the future.
Right.
The same way that digitization today is the future, and anyone who denies that is helplessly lost in the past.
Yeah.
We don't need to be teaching our kids Spanish, German, Italian, French. We need to be teaching our kids C++, C Sharp, Python, major
Well,
coding languages.
not even that.
That
I
is
would
the
just
that is the well, I mean that's a universal language.
I'd just make coding easier. Make better tools for it. But in terms of
Well, you don't
languages
get
and
that though
stuff,
unless everybody's on the same page in fluency with coding.
right, but in terms of language, one, I think trying to teach a language in a classroom is so ineffective and such a waste of taxpayer money to begin with that we shouldn't be doing that at all. And then also the world will learn whatever language brings the most opportunities. Why does almost every country on earth speak English as their second language?
Well, because English is the language that conquered everybody.
Well, not even just that. Plenty of places that
History is written
never got
by the
conquered by the
victor.
English.
I'm not apologizing for this. Literally, English is on top because English speakers demonstrated their military superiority over everyone in the last 100 years.
I wouldn't think that's why at all.
I'm not sorry for that opinion. I think that's
Well, that. Yeah, hey, dog. What's up?
did something happen or what?
Yeah, so
Where did I leave off? I guess
you were
because my
talking.
computer just totally logged off.
Oh, it was because your computer logged off?
Yeah.
What happened to me was you were. Fucking. I had Baron, which I'm appreciative for, but I had Baron redo my entire Discord, so it's like totally. Like, set up now. And, fucking, you got thrown in the AFK chat.
All right.
Yeah, you were talking
What
about
I was
military
basically
power,
saying
though, yeah.
is that if you weren't conquered by somebody who spoke English in the last 200 years, you were trading with people who spoke English.
There you go. That's where
And
I
then,
wanted you to go
well, I
with
mean,
it.
taking that to the next level, the reason Farsi, for example, is still such a popular language in the Middle East, despite existing over at least 1,000 or 2,000 years, is because Persia conquered the fuck out of everyone. Conquering absolutely matters in terms of what language, or at least what dialect of a language that you're speaking.
I think it matters, too. I agree with that completely, and I'm
I
not
would say it
saying...
matters as much as trade, though. If your overlords demand that you speak a language and you have no power to resist it, then you're learning that language.
See, I wasn't even going with trade. I was going to say more immigration pull and whoever runs most industries. So, like, for instance, in Africa, a bunch of places that were conquered by a bunch of non-English speaking European countries speak three languages. They speak their native language, they speak, like, French or German or some shit, or some weird backwards
Well,
version of
if
that,
you're
and
referencing
then
the
they
Boer
speak
republics
English.
in South Africa,
Yeah.
there was a very specific certain chain of events that happened there, and it pretty much came up right around the time that basically before gold was discovered in Johannesburg. The English lost the first Boer War and decided, it's probably not worth going back and stomping them out. And then gold was discovered, and they're like, ah. And so what they did is they sent fuck tons of settlers down there who didn't speak Dutch, which was the primary group of settlers that originally colonized South Africa.
Right.
and eventually enough English settlers overpopulated the cities, took control of the assemblies, which were majority rules for the most part,
Hmm.
and then the English military came in and said, "Oh well, they're mostly us, and they'll just let us in." And those who didn't got shot. Essentially, the Second Boer War was a slaughter.
Right.
The newly modernized English military with their new smokeless powder carbines and Maxim machine guns went in there and just obliterated the minority Dutch, which used to be the majority the first time.
So I don't disagree with anything you're saying. All I'm trying to say is a huge part of why the vast majority of the world speaks English as their second or third language at least is simply because we drive innovation everywhere. We're no longer the manufacturing capital. China and India definitely took that from us, which is a shame, in my opinion. But we still drive all of the innovation. We also drive all of the major charity programs and stuff. Like, for instance, clothing industries and like certain electronics industries and shit like that in Africa can't exist because we kind of give them
Right.
everything at a discounted charity price.
Charity is the most insidious
It is.
method
It
of keeping
destroys
people
their
submissive.
economies. It completely
Right.
destroys their economies in Africa. Africa
Like if I
specifically.
were a Kenyan and I wanted to open a shop doing literally anything that a charity does,
Good
I'm
fucking
sorry,
luck.
basically being outbid by people giving out free shit.
Yep. Free shit or close to free shit because it's like Goodwill
I can't
prices.
compete with that.
Yeah. Yeah, basically. And I think it's because of those reasons that so many people can speak English. Not just because of charity, but because, like, our mega corporations go over to those places and fucking hire workers to build shit and make shit. And, like, a lot of the time it's super unethical, but it's still spreading English. Um, we do a bunch of banking outside of our country. We do a bunch of definitely electronics related stuff. We definitely trade with other countries all the time. And then also, our immigration pull is so heavy that so many people want to be able to speak English just so that they're more likely to be allowed to immigrate here. So it's like, I think all of those reasons, plus what the British did when they owned a fucking quarter of the world, all tie
I
into
was
why
about to
so many
say
people
that's
speak English.
you'd you'd be surprised how much that mattered though in an age where the internet didn't exist, which is why I attribute conquering to so much of why English has been such a success in terms of how far it spread.
Right. No, I get
The
it.
British didn't give people a chance. They were just like, all right, uh, learn to speak it and bend the knee or die.
Not just learn to speak it and bend the knee or die, but learn to speak it, bend the knee, work for us, and pray to our God.
Or
All of
die.
those were, yeah, or die. All of those were part of that. Which, like, so I'm not a.
And the key difference there in American imperialism is that rather than taking the British route, where we basically treat people as less than subjects,
Now we give them the
we
Constitution,
tell people, well, you do all these things that we want you to do. Well, and we'll make you rich,
basically.
or we're very well to do, or we'll kill you. But you can actually make bank going with us and doing things our way. We
And
will
be
raise you
free.
up.
Depending on the kind of imperialism, but yeah, because it's not like the United States has only done good things. It's not like we've only participated in good imperialism. We've
Well,
done
no,
dark things
there's no
too.
such thing as a good empire. I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
it doesn't
that
exist.
doesn't exist.
There are empires with less strict control
Interesting
though.
thing about republics and democracies, though,
Hmm.
they're actually very much more aggressive than their despot neighbors. Typically, they're more often at war, and they do this specifically to bring in resources to keep people happy because republics and democracies usually almost always have more division, almost always have more riots slash civil wars. Um, and unless you're basically showering people with gifts, this is one of the things that Caesar was
Attempting
famous
to
for.
do.
Is he would come back from his conquests and just shower the poor people of Rome with all of these trophies that he gathered from Europe.
Right.
And that's kind of what our American imperialism is. We go abroad, we deploy our force against other people elsewhere, and then we bring back the spoils for our citizens to enjoy, and that keeps people happy for the most part. And the reason I bring up democracies and republics the most is because that they're the most notorious ones in history for doing it. Athens, Rome. Uh,
You're not giving them a good rap right now, dog.
I Here's the thing, though. For the people who live in these systems of government, life is fantastic.
Yeah, but you could.
And that's pretty much that's saying that I don't see how this is a bad thing when countries justly. That's probably for the better.
Yeah, I might. I could probably do that. I don't want to make a habit out of that though, because it takes away from the genuine aspect of the podcast. Because this isn't a processed, scripted thing. You know what I mean? It's kind of the whole
Right.
point. But yeah, I mean, you had a really good point on republics doing that though.
They do. That's how they survive.
Yeah, that weirds me out a little bit.
It's all about closed ranks, open ranks, right?
Yeah,
When a republic like America is at war with a foreign entity of equal or superior strength, what happens is we close ranks, we stifle division, we um, we unify at any cost because whatever freedoms we lose doing that is seen as better than losing to the
it's
enemy.
seen as yeah,
In
it's
which
seen
case
as
we
the
lose
ends
more anyway.
justify the means almost every time.
Well, I mean that's what we did in both world wars. Germans were the enemy,
That's what some of us are doing
and they
now with
scared the
COVID.
piss out of us the second time.
Yeah,
Um, and so what does that do? I mean, we start seeing war propaganda. Um,
COVID,
we start seeing these things that build faith in the American fighting forces overseas because we have to.
or in our
We
medical
can't allow
staff
our
or the
enemies to exploit
CDC.
any sort of division.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess something I struggle with as an individual a lot lately, especially in like the last few months
It's
in
kind of
my
like
psyche
parents that
is
are on the brink of divorce.
right.
They put their shit aside when their kid walks in the room and they're like, "Hey, sweetie."
Well, it's not even just that. It's like I don't know if I can trust any authority ever anymore, especially federal or any kind of government authority. I mean, dude, I struggle with anything, any kind of authority ever, and it's not me being rebellious and be like, oh, I don't like being told what to do. It's more like, when the fuck does authority not lead to somebody misusing me somehow, or misleading me, or manipulating the situation, or some shit? It always gets so nefarious.
Well, that's kind of the problem that empires or any form of government runs into is this is what happens after the closed ranks phase. We defeat our opponent, whoever they are, and our ranks open. There's no external threat. We resume back to picking on each other, infighting, um, and general chicanery. I mean, we start abusing each other.
Right.
And when governments get a little too bored, they get a little bit too controlling, too dominant, and that breeds massive amounts of resentment, which typically leads to either a civil war or where we are now, where we're on the brink of a civil war.
Well, I'd
Uh,
say that's what happened during Vietnam during the 60s.
we were on the brink back then too, I'd say.
Yep.
And
Hopefully the cycle goes back
the well,
to stability
the
though.
problem is that if there is an external threat that pops its head up and challenges the country during the middle of one of those crisis periods,
Mhm.
dude, you couldn't summon enough goodwill to fight that person off unless they were fucking like Hitler reborn.
Right.
And
Right.
that's the problem big empires always have. Is you've got a group of people who are so tired of being shat on by the upper class that they're like, you know what? Let those foreign degenerates come in and sack the capital. They're better than you.
Yeah, but what happens when that group of people is super inflated artificially by a bunch of people who don't have good reason to feel that way and just jump on the bandwagon?
Well,
That's
empire
what we're
still
seeing
falls anyway,
now. Yeah.
and that's the thing.
Yeah, but isn't the
That
whole premise
whether
of
or not
that
that's a
the
big
lower class
whether
could
or not
eat the
that's a
upper
good thing
class for
doesn't matter
sustenance?
because empires collapse under that kind of stress regardless.
Do you think we're looking at an imperial collapse of the United States? And if it did
Within
collapse, what
200
would even
years,
happen?
yes.
Yeah, but what even happens if the United States collapse? We're in the world of the
Second Dark
internet.
Age.
Ooh, ooh. So you've actually thought about this a little bit.
Um, well, imagine if the U.S. falls, whether that be from the inside or from territorial conquest by some outside force.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if that happens, that means the country's been divided into different territories already from some sort of internal strife. Um, our networks are down. Our main modes of communication are severely hampered or offline. Our databases are hard to break or access at all. Um, fuel is a premium, which means people aren't moving. Information is not spreading. Commerce isn't spreading.
Yeah, but wouldn't that be more akin to a Great Depression, not a Dark Age?
No, it isn't, because if the United States gets hit that hard, that badly, for that long, dude, the world trade would just implode without us. Everyone goes through a Great Depression at the same time, which usually means more wars.
That might be akin to like as long as nuclear war didn't happen, that could be akin or similar to the burning of the Library of Alexandria.
And yeah, heaven forbid if the internet goes down, dude, we're
Holy
reset for
shit.
a while.
That's something I've been thinking about actually. Like, I've been thinking about getting like laminated like binders and setting up books of like if I knew the internet was gonna get shut off tomorrow, what would I look up and like print out to have access to? Like I would want to print out like basic farming concepts, blueprints and schematics for certain things, rule books, fucking survival guides, how to make antibiotics. You know what I mean? Like a full botany list and what it does, and not alchemy, fucking chemistry concepts for like the area I live in and region I'm in, and like all of that. Like that fucks with me, dude. I don't have if the smartphone goes out tomorrow, I don't have any way to look up all this shit I need to know. We don't have to learn anything anymore. We would be so fucked.
Right.
Oh,
And
that's
it's
so
not
fucking
just
weird.
us. If the internet goes down,
It's everybody.
everyone is fucked.
It's everybody, yeah.
We're all on that boat, and it's sinking.
Yeah. You're pretty fucking convinced that we're gonna see another dark age?
Yeah, assuming that the United States collapses, yes, without nuclear war, it would be a dark age for the world.
What's the likelihood that you think it would end in nuclear war though? Because I think that's more likely than it just
Low.
cycling through.
I think it's pretty low.
Oh, I strongly disagree. I think countries that become military dictatorships overnight will have warlord-like governments that are willing to just try to take things that they don't have enough of themselves. And through countries trying to defend themselves or through countries trying to take things by force, they would definitely nuke each other. For sure.
I
Especially
don't
the
think
smaller
so. Just
countries.
just for the sake of the fact that no one wants to die,
See,
right?
I don't believe that even for a second. I think enough desperation, they'd do it immediately, especially the smaller countries.
The only groups that I would see ever approaching the idea of nuclear detonations as being remotely beneficial are religious fanaticists.
Oh, I disagree. I think the European Union, if it stayed, if it like ran out of oil, for instance, is similar to the Fallout premise. If it ran out of oil and wanted to take it from the Middle East, they'd nuke the shit out of them
I don't
immediately.
think so.
Oh no, dude, they'd go straight through Turkey and they'd nuke the shit
The
out of
only
anybody
reason
that got in
anyone
their
would nuke
way.
the Middle East is because they don't have enough nukes, if any, to hit back with,
Exactly, and I
which
think
is what
that's what would
pokes a hole in
happen.
your whole theory.
Oh, I disagree because they would use a similar strategy and slowly work their way up the totem pole.
Well, look at it this way, though. I mean, once the major powers dissolve, every major force that's protecting nukes in centralized locations also dissolves, which means No one knows who has nukes or where they keep them. Which means if any tribe that you come across that you decide to pick a fight with potentially has a fucking warhead, you're probably not going to pick on that tribe.
Yeah, but you're talking about the aftermath right now. You're not talking about during. I think it's a during that
No, no
nuclear
one's
war is
going to pull that
inevitable.
trigger. It's not worth it.
I strongly disagree because nations don't go out like a flickering light. It's not like Rome anymore, where instant communication wasn't possible and all of this shit. This stuff isn't going to go out with a whimper. It's going to go out with a fucking
And
bang
if we
because
go
when
back to the
countries get
invasion of the U.S.
desperate,
scenario, the only way you're invading the United States is probably with several orbital-based EMP pulses.
dude, I'm not worried about the United States being invaded per se. I'm only worried about
Well, I'm
nuclear
just saying,
war, and I
even if
think
we
the other
wanted
countries
to,
would cause that
in
amongst
that case,
themselves.
even if we wanted to nuke back, we couldn't
Right, and I
in
don't
that
disagree with
scenario.
that. I think that it's
And don't think
more.
for a second that we couldn't do the same thing right now already. We could just Thanos snap somebody's power grid right now.
I know we could. I know that. My whole thing is I think we're more likely to reset the clock through nuclear winter than we are to hit another dark age. Personally, I don't think because of the absolute devastating capabilities we have now for the first time in human history. I don't think we have the luxury of going through these cycles of starting at square one and starting over again. I don't think it exists anymore. Not since the discovery of the atom bomb. I think it's gone now. To be totally honest. They might not use fucking Tsar Bomba level nukes, but nukes would be used, especially the small
Well,
countries
you don't
that
need to use those, especially if you just detonate enough of the Minuteman warheads that we have.
well, a lot of
If you were
them
to
wouldn't want
detonate
to use
all of the
those
U.S.
because
arsenal
they would destroy the
all at
resources
once,
they're trying to get if they
well,
used the
if
big
you were to
ones.
detonate the entire U.S. arsenal in like 1 second, all the bombs that we have, what atmosphere exists?
None.
It burns up.
Yeah, it does. It ignites it. The world would be on
There's just
fire.
even though that they're technically smaller. By the way, I think they only made one or two Tsar bombas because they were that terrifying.
Yeah, but one of them's still in.
But yeah, they still always will have the one
It's
because
ready to go right
when
now. Yeah,
that one that they detonated that almost lit the atmosphere on fire
they
was,
came
I
to
think,
us
a
about.
50% yield.
Yeah,
Like
and
it wasn't its full potential even.
right.
Yeah, it was 50 megatons that was capable of 100 and some.
Definitely.
So
Yeah, but
th-
you're pretty fucking certain we're looking at the end of an empire, though, not just a cycle like we've been seeing often throughout our history.
well, when the world's great empires implode, chaos and usually regression follows.
I know that,
That's
but
all I'm saying.
what
It's
about our
it is a
situation right
cycle.
now makes you think it's imploding rather than it just being one of our normal cycles of civil unrest? We do this almost every like 25 years or something. The United States has always done this.
It's imploding. Well, frankly, I think it works like this: the further you stretch your legs and push your luck and flex your might, the shorter time it lasts.
See, I don't think we're flexing our might all that much right now. I think we
I
suffer
think
from
we're
incompetency, to be totally
dude,
honest.
we're flexing like mad.
What are we
Think about
flexing?
what kind of power we've managed to project over the last not even 100 years.
Oh,
We've
if you're
managed
talking
to
about the last 100 years, then
single-handedly
sure.
deploy troops in Europe and the Pacific Rim at the
Yeah.
same time, win that war, deployed into Korea, Vietnam. Pretty much, we still maintain a heavy naval presence in the Pacific Ocean slash South China Sea slash Indian Ocean area. Um,
We
when we don't want to go somewhere, we let our vassal style allies
do it
do
for
all the
us.
heavy lifting for
And
us.
we challenge the
We appoint
Chinese
regional
Navy
governors.
around Taiwan every like month.
We
And
appoint regional governors in countries that we can't be bothered to rule ourselves.
yeah,
Dude, we are an empire. We are such an empire. We literally go raid people for their oil
yeah, yeah,
and their metals,
yeah.
and we walk away like no one. We walk away like we act like we don't know no one.
My main goal is to blow up and act like I don't know nobody. Good God,
And dude, we have a base in every country in Europe.
I hate that shit so much.
You can't tell me that we are the most successful empire ever.
in all of human history.
No one has controlled as much territory as we have ever,
Yeah.
whether through influence or might. In this case, both.
Yeah.
It's going to implode far quicker than the Roman Empire ever did. It's just too much. It's too much, too fast. No one's done it before. No one has a blueprint for how to go about making it last longer.
Maybe I should maybe I should name this episode Doomsday or some shit.
It doesn't have to be our generation. I'm just saying it will implode. It always does. And usually the bigger the empire, the more catastrophic the consequences. When Rome gave out, I mean 600 years of despair followed up and all the way until Renaissance.
Yeah. Half a thousand years, man.
People couldn't pull themselves out of fucking feudalism until the Industrial Revolution. I mean, how's that?
Yeah, they couldn't stop until innovation let them.
Or made them.
Yeah. That might yeah, at the beginning of this podcast I kind of thought we were just going through like a normal thing, but you've kind of totally changed my perspective and made me think otherwise. God damn it. Why you do this?
What is a normal thing, I have to ask?
The normal cycles the United States sees, like during the Civil Rights Movement in the 60s and shit, or our own revolution, for instance, or the Roaring Twenties, or things like that. These things happen, generally. Massive amounts of political unrest. The conservatives want to stick with traditionalism. The liberals want to try what's newer, what they think is the path, what they think is progress. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't.
I also take issue with the word conservative because they're not conserving anything anymore. They're just staying in power.
Yeah, that's what they're doing right now.
Yeah,
But
the only thing they're conserving is their office.
to be conservative is to want to maintain the traditionalism of certain things in our country. And I'm not a traditionalist by any stretch, but there are certain things I'd like to preserve. Like, I don't know, like the spirit of freedom, constitutionalism. Like, there's this one badge thing I saw this one time where it's like when somebody asks me how I feel about politics, and it's this picture of a gay couple holding AK-47 surrounded by pot plants, and it's like I want to be able to protect my gay neighbors with my AR-15 while they grow their pot plants or some shit. Was their political opinions, and I'm just like, yeah, that would be pretty sweet. I feel like those general premises, just like the freedom to do whatever the fuck you want, was kind of the whole premise of the whole shebang, and now we're looking at Big Brother and massive government in cahoots with these big ass tech companies.
Sorry,
And
I don't know
can't
why.
stand
When
it.
you said Big Brother, it made me think of Hulk Hogan. Hey, brother.
Yeah, because that's what the government is. Just imagine Joe Biden, but instead of being this buff, massive guy asking you about your protein, he's just like, "Hey,
He
man."
literally just stares at Trump from
Hey,
across the
man.
debate podium. Hey, brother.
No, he says, "Hey, man, you gotta let me look in those text messages of yours." You know what I'm
Come
saying?
on, man.
Yeah,
How can we count the ballots until we know how many votes we need?
yeah. Honestly, I this upcoming presidential election, when Biden's getting kicked to the curb, I am assuming he survives this term. He might not. His physical health is terrifying. But I'm gonna vote for whoever the fuck says they're gonna pardon Snowden. Honestly, anybody who
Yeah,
pardons Snowden, I will vote for that person. I'm surprised Trump didn't do it. To be totally honest,
I'm not.
that's a little sus. It's a little sus.
Trump was balancing on a needle's edge.
I disagree. I don't think he was balancing at all. I think he fucking cut the
He's got some.
fucking
Snowden
rope.
knows something that he doesn't want getting out.
Right. Well, that's why I'm so pro pardoning him. You know. But yeah.
And I voted for Trump both times, and I'd probably vote for him again. But I ain't oblivious to the fact that that man has done things, and I'm sure he knows about other people who know what he's done.
Yeah, probably.
And
That's why he's never been pardoned and why it's never talked about on the media or anything like that.
well, yeah, the whole thing is a swamp.
Oh yeah,
Washington is a swamp,
it is on both
and
sides clearly.
there are things that if the public knew would drain it overnight.
Well, it might cause that dark age you were talking about if people really knew how artificial and pointless a lot of our governing bureaucracy is, in my opinion. How fake the power really is.
Probably.
But yeah, man, I think we might be wrapping this one up for now. But I would like to get with you more often and have drinks and just talk about random shit. I ain't gonna lie.
Oh yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
that got really dark at the end. We started off pretty positive and pretty strong, and then it kind of just went right
Yeah,
off the cliff.
a little bit. But you know, it happens. It fucking happens that way sometimes. Jesus Christ. I mean, and you know, this kind of stuff probably sells more than normal shit. So, I mean, we'll see how it goes.
I don't know about that. Depends on your audience, I guess, whether or not they want the look out, the future is gonna get you, or if they want the hey man, just keep your head up today, stay positive,
You know,
you'll get through it.
duality of man. I've talked about you recently on the podcast how you,
Duality of man.
yeah, how you just how you see some really ironic shit. You just say the duality of man.
It's my favorite turn of phrase, dude.
It's funny as shit.
Like I literally go and watch Warzone vids, and people are like, "This is like the best class ever. You should use it." And then at the same fucking comment section, people are like, "All these people out there who just advertise what the best class is ruin this game." And I'm like, "You're on this video. Why?" I wanted to use it. Duality of man.
The duality of man. Yes, sir. Alright, with that, we're gonna end this episode. Goodbye, everybody. Jesus.